In this podcast, we are going to compare rational numbers. So the first example we're going to look at is 2/10 compared to 8/100. We need to determine what kind of symbol we can compare 2/10 and 8/100 together. Well, the first thing I want to make sure of is that I have the same number of decimal places. Okay, 2/10 only has one decimal place, whereas 8/100 has two decimal places. So I can change 2/10 into 20/100. And now I have the same number of decimal places. So looking at these two values, which one is larger? Is 20 larger or is 8 larger? Well, 20 is larger. So my alligator wants to eat the bigger number. So when I'm comparing 2/10 and 8/100, I would use a greater than symbol. And this is read 2/10 is greater than 8/100. Let's look at another example. In this example, we're going to try and compare 1/6 and 4/24. So I need to think to myself, is there anything in common between 1 and 6? No, there's not. But are there values in common between 4 and 24? Can I reduce that fraction? Yes, I can. And if you need to go back and rewatch your GCF, greatest common factor, how to reduce fractions in our first podcast, go ahead and go do that. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce this by dividing the top and the bottom, and the greatest common factor I have here is 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 24 divided by 4 is 6. So when I'm looking at these fractions, I have 1/6, and I'm comparing it to 1/6. Well, how does that compare? Which way is my alligator going to go? Well, he's going to go both ways. These two numbers are equal. All right, one more example. In this example, we're going to have 3/40, and we're going to try and compare that to 2.3%. Now, the easiest way to compare numbers is usually in decimal form. So I'm going to try and get both these values into decimals. Now, on my left side, to turn that into a decimal, I need to use division. So remember, top in, bottom out. So I need to divide 3 divided by 40. I can't just add 1 0. I'm going to have to start by adding 2 zeros. Sorry guys, I ran out of room, so I moved it down a little bit. So I can't go into 30 with my 40, so I have to add another 0. So my decimal's here, and that first 0 is going to have a 0 above it. Can 40 go into 300? Yes, 40 can go into 300. We're going to put 40 into 300 7 times. So 7 times 0 is 0, and 7 times 4 is 28. So I have 280, and I'm going to subtract. I have a remainder of 20. So I'm going to bring down one more 0, and 40 is going to go into 200 5 times. So 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 4 is 20, and we subtract and we have nothing left over. So our decimal value for 3/40 is going to be 0.075. And remember, I'm trying to compare that to this number over here. So let's go ahead and convert this into a decimal. Now, if you remember from the previous lesson where we converted decimals into percents, I have to move my decimal place. So it's important that you remember which direction to move your decimal place. Percents are going to have a larger number value than decimals. So I need to move my decimal 2 places to the left. Which means when I have this as a decimal, it's going to be 0.023. So now looking at these two numbers, which value is larger? I have the same number of decimal places. Here I have 75, and on the right I have 23. So my alligator is going to want to eat the 75, which means that 3/40 is larger than 2.3%.